the intense multinational law enforcement crackdown has put pressure on the ransomware as a service economy. Police raided homes of cybercriminals, dismantled their server infrastructure, VPNs, and seized domains. They've pressured governments to cooperate, cracked down on ransom laundering in financial systems, and put bounties out for cybercriminals. While ransomware groups have felt the pressure, ransomware groups have adapted, and ransomware continues to plague the world. In response to the crackdown, many ransomware groups that reside in Russia and other non-cooperative nations have shut down their operations and then reopened under a new name with enhanced capabilities. In July 2021, a new ransomware as a service company called Black Matter entered the market just months after DarkSide and Revil shut down operations in response to the pressure. Black Matter essentially replaced DarkSide and Revil by adopting the best tools and techniques from both. It is believed that members of Black Matter, Revil, and DarkSide are all very closely related, if not the same people in the same roles. According to the United States Department of Health and Human Services cybersecurity arm, Black Matter's last recorded victim was attacked on October 31st, 2021, and it is now believed that Black Matter shut down in late 2021. They have been defeated. Okay, maybe not. In December 2021, a new Russian-based ransomware as a service company called Black Cat entered the market. They claim to be Black Matter affiliates, and in reality, they are the new Black Matter replacement. They steal victims' data and threaten to release it. Then they deploy ransomware in a double extortion attack. They then sell access to their victims' IT infrastructure to third-party cybercriminal groups. It is important to note that in a rare move, Russia arrested members of Revil and DarkSide who are believed to be responsible for the high-profile Colonial Pipeline, JBS, and Kaseya ransomware attacks. Given it was right before their invasion of Ukraine, they likely wanted to gain control over groups targeting NATO-critical infrastructure to avoid unintended escalations. The ransomware as a service companies seem to be constantly changing and rebranding every few months. Even with all the intense law enforcement efforts, ransomware is still very common. Law enforcement can temporarily disrupt the ransomware as a service company's infrastructure and put pressure on them, but they cannot eliminate them. Many of the cybercriminals, even ones that were identified by the United States Department of Justice, remain out of law enforcement's reach. The previously mentioned ransomware as a service companies are just a few examples of the many ransomware as a service companies and ransomware groups operating. Other well-known ransomware as a service groups like Conti, Lockbit, and Hive have stayed more consistent. For years, they have targeted small to mid-market organizations that are not in critical sectors or industries and thus kept a lower profile. And still new ransomware as a service companies hit the market. The FBI regularly releases and updates warnings for many different ransomware groups. Russia is not the only country that is home to ransomware groups. Microsoft has been tracking the Chinese hacker group Hafnium that has ties to the Chinese government and is believed to conduct cyber espionage. Microsoft has also been tracking a new ransomware strain called Night Sky that appears to be used by a group, Dev0401, who is based in China. Dev0401 had previously been known to deploy other ransomware on its victims, such as Lockfile, Atom Silo, and Rue. Night Sky also runs the double extortion where they exfiltrate data they can threaten to release before deploying the ransomware. It is unclear where the ransomware was developed or by who. It was later determined Chinese state-sponsored hackers were using ransomware as a decoy for their espionage activities. Some governments like North Korea and Iran actively engage in ransomware attacks. In September 2022, the U.S. Department of Justice charged 3 members of the cyber branch of the Iranian military called IRGC for a quote-unquote ransomware-style campaign. It's unclear what they meant by this. Similar to the Chinese cyber group, they may have also been using ransomware to disguise cyber espionage activities. Now you're probably wondering why you have not seen ransomware much in the news. While ransomware attacks are still happening, in response to the law enforcement efforts, the ransomware groups followed other groups like Hive, Conti, and Lockbit. They shifted their targeting. CISA released a joint advisory along with the UK and Australia. The advisory states that ransomware groups continue to evolve and find ways to evade defenses. Ransomware groups have widened their technical targeting to include less traditional target infrastructure like cloud accounts, cloud applications, and application programming interfaces. The CISA advisory also stated that ransomware groups have moved away from targeting big-game, high-profile targets in the United States and are now targeting mid-sized organizations, as well as IT-managed service providers who access and manage a large amount of small business networks. The new lower-profile targets draw less attention, but can still pay expensive ransom demands. The advisory notes that they continue to target Australian critical infrastructure, as well as British and Australian organizations of all sizes. It seems like cybercriminals are less deterred from attacking organizations outside the US. Ransomware groups are still freely targeting organizations in less developed countries around the world.